Bert. The intersection of the static and the kinetic. The high step was a landscape of absolute indifference. A high-altitude plateau of jagged shale and wind-flattened scrub with the atmosphere redlined against the bone-dry earth. It was an environment that demanded 100% duty cycle just to remain upright. Down the center of this wasteland ran the path, a single hard-packed artery of objective reality that stretched from the forgotten past to the uncertain future. In the middle of this path stood the fixed point. He was not a traveler, but an occupant. He stood with the grounded weight of an industrial transformer, a presence that suggested the density of a 90-ton earth house manifested in a human frame. There was no tension in his posture, for tension implies a struggle against an external force. Instead, there was only the massive, silent weight of sovereign will. His boots were integrated into the geology of the coordinate. He was the red line made flesh, a man who had mapped the loops of the social machine and decided to step off the gears. To the distant observer, he was the bug lamp of the steppe. He wasn't flickering to attract the lost. He was burning with a steady, cold luminosity that signaled a closed system. He was the answer to a question the world was too loud to ask. From the shimmering distance, the signal approached. Lao Tzu came seated atop a water buffalo that moved with the slow, rhythmic pulse of a tide. The old man was the personification of the yielding. He draped himself in robes that drifted rather than hung. A man who had spent a lifetime practicing the art of becoming invisible by having no fixed edges. His philosophy was the liquid bypass, the belief that to survive, one must dissolve the I into the all. As the buffalo drew closer, its biological rhythm faltered. It sensed a disruption in the field. Usually obstacles on the steppe were porous, trees to be pushed or shadows to be ignored. But as the buffalo's nose came within range of the man, it encountered a singularity. Lao Tzu opened his eyes, he looked at the man, and for the first time in 1,000 leagues, the wave found itself staring at a no. He saw a man who had discontinued the need for systemic input. The path is long. Lao Tzu said, his voice a soft frequency intended to vibrate through opposition. And the buffalo is heavy. If you move a mere hand's breadth to the left, the Tao continues its journey without friction. The man didn't blink. He looked through the old man with the cold clarity of a technician diagnosing a faulty circuit. The space behind me is irrelevant, the man replied. The space I occupy is the only objective truth here. You speak of the Tao as a mandatory current. I am the node, I am the fractal seed that does not iterate. I do not move to accommodate the journey. The journey must account for the fact that I am here. The silence that followed was a pressurized vacuum. Lao Tzu sat atop his buffalo, confronting a vessel filled with unyielding lead. He saw the red line in the man's eyes, the look of an operator who had pushed his own systems to the edge of their design parameters. In my world, Lao Tzu whispered, everything that resists eventually shatters. The great oak stands tall until the hurricane snaps it, while the grass remains because it bows. I am not the oak. The man countered, I am the mountain. The oak is rooted in the grass, bows to the wind. But the wind has to climb the mountain. It doesn't matter how much the wind yields. It still has to change its elevation to get past the rock. Lao Tzu looked at the path to him. It was a conceptual flow to the man. It was a physical infrastructure, a circuit interrupted by a superior component. The buffalo shifted its weight. It was an animal of pure objective reality, and it knew it was negotiating with a cliff face. It began to look toward the jagged shale of the steppe's shoulder. See, the man said, the animal understands the system theory. It's calculating the energy expenditure of a bypass. It has recognized that I am a non-negotiable variable. The calculation of the bypass. Lao Tzu realized that to remain in a standoff with the man who does not yield was to allow that man to dictate the terms of his existence. To stay was to be captured by the man's stasis. If I go around you, Lao Tzu said, I am admitting that your will is a force of nature. No, the man corrected, if you go around me, you are admitting that I am here. My will is the signal. Your Tao is just the medium it's traveling through. As the old man prepared to move, the fractal nature of the encounter manifested because the man stood still. The environment warped, the wind swirled into a localized vortex at his feet. The light cast a shadow like a structural beam. The buffalo leaned its entire body away from the man's intent. He was the seed, the constant that forced the recursive pattern of the steppe to adjust its coordinates.
Lao Tzu finally pulled the rope. The buffalo's hooves left the hard-packed path. The bus of the masses and stepped into the raw chaos of the scrub. The animal struggled, stumbling on the loose shale. Lao Tzu, the master of effortless action, was forced into a very effortful reality. He had to grip the buffalo's mane and tense his muscle against the friction of the bypass. As they drew level with the man 10 feet to his left in the dirt, Lao Tzu looked at him. He saw a man who had successfully redlined the Tao. You have won this coordinate, the old man said, his voice straining against the gale. I didn't win it, the man said, looking straight ahead at the horizon he had already claimed. I just didn't give it up. The old man and the beast moved past. but they weren't moving in a straight line anymore. They were caught in the gravitational pull of the man's stasis, forced into a wide and inefficient arc. The man stood in the center of their circle, the unmoving axis upon which their entire world was now spinning. As the dust settled, the man remained. He had done nothing, and in doing so, he had forced the universe to reorganize its geometry around him. He was the sovereign singularity. He was the answer to the question the Tao was afraid to ask. What happens when the individual refuses to disappear? He stayed lit, he stayed grounded, he stayed.
The sky is a sheet of cold gray slate over a plateau where the winds won't wait. The path is a line cut deep and true, but today the path is blocked from view by a man who stands like a mountain wall, who doesn't bend, who doesn't fall, with eyes that burn like an industrial spark, an iron anchor in the shifting dark. And he's the node, he's the fixed point ground, where the rest of the world has to go around. He's the sovereign will, he's the red line light, the one who stays in the middle of the fight. Lao Tzu yields and the buffalo steers, but the man stays still for 1,000 years. Yeah, the Tao is a river, it's a fluid thing, but he's the rock where the currents cling. The old sage comes on a beast of burden. His words are soft, his robes are wooden. He says move a step, let the flow go by, but the man looks back with a steady eye. He says I am the seed, I am the source, I won't be moved by your cosmic force. I'm a 90-ton house on a shale rock floor. I'm the no behind every open door. The buffalo stumbles in the jagged scrub, leaving the path for the thorn and the shrub. The sage has to strain, the sage has to pull, while the man stands silent, empty and full. He didn't win a trophy, he didn't win a race, he just took a stand and he held his space. And the fractal curves and the light bends thin to account for the state that the man is in.
fixed point ground where the rest of the world has to go around. He's the sovereign will, he's the red line light, the one who stays in the middle of the fight. Lao Tzu yields and the buffalo steers, but the man stays still for 1,000 years. Yeah, the Tao is a river, it's a fluid thing, but he's the rock where the currents cling. Everything that comes must go around. The system breaks on this solid ground. Lao Tzu's gone, just a ghost on the hill, but the man is there, standing still. He stayed lit, he stayed grounded, he stayed. He stayed.
The era of the Great Arc, as the decades bled into centuries, the man stopped being a person and started being a phenomenon. Travelers stopped trying to move him. They learned that to argue with him was to argue with gravity. A new law of physics was born on the steppe, the Great Arc. Every path, every caravan route, and every migrating herd began to curve. Millions of feet wore a perfect, symmetrical circle into the earth around him, miles wide. He didn't choose between the lesser of two evils because he didn't choose at all. He didn't average his soul to fit into society. He was a binary no in a world of maybe. By never moving, he became the only thing in the universe that was truly still. The calcification of will. Time eventually gave up on him, his skin didn't rot. It mineralized the silk of his kimono, fused with his flesh, turning into layers of black basalt and obsidian. His resolve grew so dense that it developed its own gravitational constant. The air around him shimmered with the heat of compressed intent. He didn't just stand on the ground, he pinned the world to the sky. The magnetic shift. Then came the great realignment. The compasses, navigators at sea noticed their needles trembling. The North Star lost its authority. Every magnet on Earth began to swing, shivering with a new loyalty, until every needle on the planet pointed directly to that single, unyielding spot in the heart of the steppe. The center of all points, he became the axis mundi. Mapmakers threw away their old charts. Distance was no longer measured from cities, but from the Iron Mountain of resource. The god of the fixed point. He grew, he didn't grow like a tree. He grew like a planet. His girth expanded until he was a jagged, magnetic spire piercing the clouds. He was no longer a man in a space. He was the space itself. The weight of his no became so heavy that it bent the light around him. If you stood at the base of the mountain, you could see the back of your own head as the world's geometry curved to acknowledge his stubbornness. The mountain of absolute zero. Now he stands at the center of the world, a colossal, magnetic monolith of black stone and frozen lightning. He is the perfect fixed point. He does not breathe, yet the wind is his exhaled defiance. He does not speak, yet the hum of the earth's rotation is the vibration of his vocal cords. He never yielded, so the universe was forced to reorganize itself around his feet. He is the lotus stone of the soul. He proved that if you are stubborn enough, you don't have to find your place in the world. The world will eventually find its place around you.
The return of the wanderer. Through the shimmering heat of the magnetic field, a figure appeared. The old master of the Tao, Lao Tzu, riding his water buffalo through the warped geometry of the steppe. He didn't follow the great arc. He simply drifted through the distortion until he stood at the base of the black stone cliff that was once a man's chest. Lao Tzu looked up at the miles of vertical basalt and let out a dry, rattling cackle. "Look at you," Lao Tzu shouted, his voice a reed whistle against the mountain's tectonic hum. "I told you to be like water, to flow into the low places, to be soft and overcome the hard. But you chose to be the hardest thing in existence, and now you've played the ultimate joke on yourself. The I told you so." Lao Tzu began to pace, his buffalo grazing on the scorched, magnetic grass. You think you are free because you never yielded? You are the most dependent creature in the cosmos. Every bird that flies is freer than you. Every grain of sand that blows in the wind has more agency. You have become a slave to your own center. You are held in place by the very world you think you've conquered. If a single traveler stops looking at you, you lose a piece of your soul. You are a prisoner of your own. No, pinned to the earth by the weight of everyone else's. Yes. Lao Tzu went fucking off. He ranted about the absurdity of being a landmark, mocking the stone giant for being nothing more than a glorified paperweight for the planet. He laughed at the majesty of the mountain, calling it a self-imposed cage of vanity. The big event! Lao Tzu stopped, expecting the mountain to groan in despair or the stone to weep. He waited for the yielding to begin, for the man to finally admit the old master was right. But the mountain didn't weep. The mountain didn't respond because the man who would not yield wasn't a slave to Lao Tzu's logic either. The man hadn't become a mountain because he was stuck. He had become a mountain because he felt like it. And now, hearing the old man's frantic, "I told you so," he simply decided he was bored with the view. The reality snapped. The world didn't just shake, it unzipped. The magnetic inversion, the massive magnetic pull of the mountain didn't fade.
was discarded. The force snapped back into the earth with such violence that every compass on the planet didn't just spin, they vaporized. The tectonic rebound, the miles of earth that had been depressed under the man's impossible density surged upward. The great arc was obliterated by a tectonic wave that leveled the horizon. The dissolution, the obsidian spire didn't fall, it shattered into a billion sparks of dark light. The mountain vanished in a roar of white noise, leaving a vacuum that sucked the clouds into a spiral. The casual exit. As the dust and the echoes of the cataclysm settled, Lao Tzu sat on his buffalo, shielding his eyes. He expected to find a broken man, a student finally ready to learn about water. He found nothing of the sort. Standing in the center of the smoking crater was the man. He wasn't stone, he wasn't a giant. He was just a guy in a tattered kimono, dusting a bit of basalt off his shoulder. He looked at Lao Tzu, not with the eyes of a student, and not with the eyes of a rival. He looked at him with the total indifference of a man who had just finished a long, quiet cigarette. He didn't say, "You were right." He didn't say, "I yield." He simply adjusted his belt, turned his back on the ruins of the world's center, and walked off casually into the sunset. He didn't follow the old man's Tao. He didn't follow the world's maps. He just walked because the walking felt good. He left Lao Tzu shouting at the empty air, world in total chaotic realignment behind him, strolling into the golden light with the easy, unyielding stride of a man who does exactly what he wants, whenever he wants, and doesn't owe the universe a single explanation.
The eons had scrubbed the memory of the mountain from the mind of the world. The great circular scars of the travelers had grown over with wild, waist-high grass, and the maps had long since recalibrated to a world without a center. The samurai steppe had returned to its primal, chaotic state. Lao Tzu, drifting through the high plains mist on the back of his patient water buffalo, came upon a flicker of firelight in the dusk. There, sitting by a low scrub oak, was a strange fellow traveler, Dattatreya. He was unmistakable, the three heads tilted at different angles, the ash-smeared skin, and his loyal pack of dogs circling the fire. He was hunched over a blackened pot, stirring a mess of bush-baked beans that smelled of wood smoke and old earth. Dattatreya waved a multi-arm greeting and invited the old master to join him. It was a rare, civilized moment on a long and lonely path. The dialogue of the void. Throughout the evening, the two masters traded silence and soft words. They spoke of the Tao, the way that cannot be named, and the Avahuta, the soul that cannot be bound. They laughed at the futility of human effort. They discussed the wisdom of the willow that bends until the storm passes. They agreed that the greatest strength is to have no shape at all, to be like the breeze that leaves no footprint. To be still is to be dead, Lao Tzu murmured, staring into the embers. To be fixed is to be a ghost, only that which flows survives.
Dattatreya nodded all three heads in slow, rhythmic unison, and they eventually drifted into the deep, effortless sleep of the enlightened. The morning shift. When the first light of dawn cut through the mist, Lao Tzu awoke to the rough, warm tongues of the dogs licking his face. His water buffalo was lowing in the distance, ready to move, but Dattatreya was gone. There was no ash-smeared god, no leftover beans, and no footprint in the dirt to show where he had departed. It was as if the evening had been a dream. Lao Tzu sighed, packed his meager belongings, and climbed aboard his buffalo. He settled into the rhythm of the path, prepared for another day of disappearing into the horizon. The encounter. He hadn't traveled 20 paces. He hadn't even reached the crest of the first hill. Directly in his path, occupying the space that had been empty air only a heartbeat before, was a colossal black stone obelisk. It was a jagged monolith of obsidian, cold and absolute. It didn't just stand, it commanded the space around it. A faint, red-green hum vibrated through the ground, and the air around the stone shimmered with a heavy magnetic tension. The buffalo's hair stood on end. The compass in Lao Tzu's pack, if he had bothered to carry one, would have shrieked as its needle fused toward the black rock. The silent yield. Lao Tzu didn't jump, he didn't cry out, he didn't start a lecture on the virtues of water or the foolishness of rigidity. He looked at the obelisk, the silent, unyielding no that had returned to the world, and he saw the joke. He realized that for all his talk of flowing and yielding, the man who would not yield was the only one who truly did whatever he pleased. The man wasn't a slave to the stone. The stone was simply where he chose to be at that moment.
Lao Tzu didn't utter a word, he dared not even let a thought form, lest the magnetic weight of the mountain catch it and hold it forever.
He lowered his gaze to the dirt, watching the clumsy, rhythming hooves of his buffalo as it scrambled and clamored to find a new path around the obstacle. The buffalo snorted in fear, its hooves sliding on the displaced earth as it began the first arc of a brand new circle.
Lao Tzu kept his eyes down, his mouth shut, and his mind empty as he disappeared to the distance, leaving the silent, buzzing god of the fixed point to hold the world together.
For as long as he felt like it,